Okay, I'm just going to have to hope you can hear me now. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. I may be getting this horribly wrong. Okay, let's do some revision. Alright, did I do that? That seems like it might be the right sort of thing to do. So this is a revision video mainly for the year 11s who are doing an assessment this week on Islam beliefs. I'm just going to go through some of the core Islamic beliefs. I think the easiest way to start this is to look at the 6 articles of faith versus the 5 roots of faith. Sometimes the 5 roots of faith will get called the 5 roots of Al-Saladin. The main big difference between the 5 roots and the 6 articles is, one, for some reason I decided to write out the word 6 here and just do a number 5 there, and I couldn't tell you why I've done that, just pure stupidity I think in my head. I did have a mouse on my computer, but I don't know why I've put it there. 6 articles of faith are the Sunni beliefs, okay? The 5 roots of faith are the Shia beliefs. It's really hard to remember which way round they go. The only way I've managed to do it in my own head is to remember that the 6 articles of faith are for Sunni, and Sunni is a longer word than Shia, so they get more articles of faith. You could remember it that Shia is the smaller religion, so they get less roots of faith. Okay, so Sunni is the bigger religion. 95%, roughly 90-95% of Muslims are Sunni Muslims, and therefore they get an extra article of faith because they're the bigger section of Muslims. Whereas Shia is the smaller group, so they only get 5 roots of faith. In the GCSE, the most important thing that you'll have to know is the main differences between these faiths. And by that I mean the idea that there are differences and similarities between Sunni and Shia Muslims. So we'd first look at the similarities between them, and those things are the same. And for that I would say your 2 easiest to talk about is the similarity of Tawheed and the similarity of prophets. I'll talk about all of these in a little bit more detail as we go through. But Tawheed is the easiest thing to talk about in Islamic beliefs because it's the belief that there is one God, and actually it's the belief in the oneness of God. So when we've done about Christianity, we've talked about the Trinity, the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. And this idea would be roundly rejected if it was to be introduced into Islam because it goes very much against the idea of Tawheed. Though a Christian would argue there is one God who has 3 features in that sense, the 3 aspects would be probably more accurate way of saying it. Tawheed would be the idea that God can only be one being. There is one being called God, and that being is all-powerful, is all-loving, omnipresent, is transcendent, that they are beyond the universe, but immanent, that they are interacting with us. Allah is one. And that is so important for Muslims. So there is no way that Sunni or Shia would drop that belief. And you can see it goes number 1 on both of their lists. That is how important this belief is that there is Sunni and Shia Muslims. Oh, someone's in the chat. Hang on a minute. Oh, hello, Jack from my year 9 class. No, I'm not telling a story about sugar right now. Doing a thing about RE. That's the whole point of this. It's RE. Not telling stories about my own stupidity. Now, we'll talk about the differences in a second because I'll focus on differences later. The other main similarity, and one that is a perfect similarity, is prophets and prophethood, though that might get occasionally called Risala, and I forgot to make that end bracket go red, and that's annoying me, so I'm going to have to make that end bracket go red. How do I do that? Make the end bracket go red. Pretend that I did it in the first place, and while I'm here, change that to 5. So it makes me feel less stupid. So prophets and prophethood is the idea that Allah has chosen certain people to have a role in delivering his message. Okay, the most important of these is arguable, but for many Muslims that would be the Prophet Muhammad. This is important because you might have to do a 12-mark question arguing about whether any of the prophets can be more important than the others, or describing their roles within the religion and how they are important. So prophets is a really nice one. Prophets is any human who was delivering the message of Allah, and especially those who are mentioned in the Quran. Though there is the idea that Allah has sent a prophet for every community, and there may be prophets outside of the Quran, we only focus on those prophets mentioned inside the Quran. So the 4 that we focus most of our energy on is Adam, the first prophet, Ibrahim, the father of the faiths. Okay, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are known as the Abrahamic faith because of Ibrahim, known as Abraham. So important in that sense. We'll talk about him in a second. Isa, Jesus, okay, an important prophet because it shows the relationship between Christianity and Islam, which is so important. But Isa also has all these other roles, like when Muhammad goes on the night journey, he speaks to Isa. Isa's name is all throughout the Quran. The message of Jesus is in the Quran essentially, but he's not the Son of God, he's just a prophet. And then obviously finishing off with the person they call the seal of the prophets, Muhammad. Muhammad is called the seal of the prophets, not because he's a seal like because it seals it shut like an envelope is sealed shut, and he seals the sort of communication with Allah up. He seals it, so his is the last communication. There will be no more communication between God and earth, because that is the seal of the prophet, seals it all up shut and good. And the final one is a confusing one because they are a tiny bit different, but they're basically the same, is Day of Judgment and Day of Resurrection. These are both parts of Akira. The Day of Resurrection sort of comes first in that it is the day that all bodies... Ow, I hit my hands. I'm sorry. The Day of Resurrection comes first because it is the day when all bodies are raised from the ground after Barzakh. The idea that you've died, you've been waiting in the grave, and you'll be raised is the Day of Resurrection. And the Day of Judgment is the day we'll all be judged. However, if you threw either of those terms into Google and went onto Wikipedia, they're both under the idea of afterlife in Islam. They have the same page. They don't have that much separation. So in your exam, you'd probably get away with saying that these are the same ideas or incredibly similar ideas. But if these ideas are the same, we must remember that there are differences as well. So Sunni Islam has 3 beliefs in the Articles of Faith that are not in the Roots of Faith, and there are 2 of the Roots of Faith that are not in the 6 Articles of Faith. Why is this important? Well, it shows what is important for Sunni Muslims and what's important for Shia Muslims. Shia Muslims still believe in angels, holy books and predestination, but they're not considered as important as Adalat and the Imamate in terms of they're not part of the 6 Articles of Faith. And so you've got this difference, and if you can remember some of these differences, it's a really nice sort of detail to bring up in a 12-mark question. In a 12-mark question you can drop these sort of ideas in there. Angels is obviously, I'm going to talk about, I've actually got a whole slide on because I love talking about angels, they just make me happy, is obviously the beings created by Allah to deliver his messages, to be his servants essentially, to be his interaction between his power and humankind. Angels are in the Bible as well, and so we'll look at their names and how their Christian names are. The holy books, I'm not just saying the Quran, I'm not just putting holy book, because there are other books than the holy book of the Quran. The Torah, or Torah as Muslims might call it, is part of the holy books, the Jewish book. The Gospel, Injil, of the stories of Jesus Christ, the Christian stories of Jesus Christ, that is part of the holy books. The Psalms and Songs of David are part of the holy books. So there are bits of the holy books that aren't just the Quran. So why do Muslims focus so much on the Quran? Well, that's the one holy book that they don't believe has ever been changed, ever been interfered with, ever been altered. And because of that holy book never having been altered, they believe that the Quran is the most trustworthy of all the holy books. I did hit my hand, and I did not hit a spider, and there's a picture of a duck. I hit my hand on a high chair because there's a high chair next to me where sometimes a baby has to sit while I'm doing stuff. I did hit my hand. Sorry, I won't always be able to see your messages because I'm what's that thing? Alt-tabbing between the thing and the thing. The PowerPoint and the thing. What's it called? YouTube. That's what I'm on. Predestination. I've got a whole slide on, I think. Did I put one on predestination? No. So I'll talk about predestination now, actually. Predestination is the idea that life is all planned out in advance. That there is a plan from Allah and that we are following this plan, or we are part of this plan. And actually it's an idea that is quite difficult because if everything is planned out, how much free will do I have? And it's actually a discussion within Islam about, is Allah making all my decisions for me, or is he putting out the plan and I have to act on that plan in order to get into heaven? Is he giving me the opportunities to get into heaven, or does he already know what I will do? And a phrase that Muslims often use is inshallah. Inshallah might be something that you say when times are difficult, or when something surprising has happened, like there's been some sort of awful event, or even some sort of great event, and you would say inshallah, which means God wills it, Allah wills it. That means Allah wants this to be so. So I found out that my house has set on fire. I might say inshallah, well, Allah wills it. Well, if this is Allah's plan, then who am I to argue with it? Christians would argue similar things, that God always has a plan, but probably wouldn't go quite so far to say the idea of predestination necessarily, which is that our destiny is pre-written, that my life story is written out in a book and I'm just following along, sort of being taken along this path. Sunni Muslims are probably more into the idea that life is planned out in advance, that we have all these points in our life that we must hit, and to get into Jannah or paradise, that we must follow Allah's plan. Shia Muslims generally, and there are obviously Shia Muslims who disagree, and I'm sure someone would want to correct me on that, but a rough rule of thumb would be that Shia Muslims would see Allah as having a plan, but it's up to us to connect all these points. I think of it like a computer game where you get to those points in the story where you can save the princess, or chase the bad guy, and you make the decision, you make a good choice or a bad choice, or even you just make two choices and the story branches off. All those Walking Dead games and sort of adventure games let you branch off the story. Are you going to go left? Are you going to go right? You see a car crash. Are you going to save the person from the car crash, or are you going to save yourself from the car crash? You're going to stay away from it. And that could be a choice on how you get into heaven. This could be part of, and you could add this in, God's test. If predestination, al-qadar, is that everything is predestined, that we don't have any free will, then the idea of heaven and hell becomes quite difficult, because if God has controlled me all the way through, then what am I doing? Am I even part of this? If he sends me to hell, well, that's not my fault. I didn't have any control over what was happening there. And if he lets me go to heaven, well, that's cool, thanks, that's nice of you. But did I deserve to go to heaven if I never had any control of what I did in the first place? So predestination is a massive thing. I think so I did put a quote off for it. I knew I did something about it. I'm always doing something. Only what God has decreed will happen to us. Only what God has decreed will happen to us. Now, obviously, the most difficult word in that sentence is decreed. Basically, decree. I wanted to use the little pen thing. How do I use that? Little pen thing. Oh, there we go. Only what... Oh, look at that straight... Oh, it was a really straight line for a second. It's not bad. Only what God has decreed, what God has said will happen to us. So if God hasn't said it's going to happen, it won't necessarily happen to us. That means that we are all following God's plan. Only what God has decreed will happen to us. And that is the argument for predestination, that nothing that happens to us happens without God's will. And for some Muslims, that means literally everything that God is planning is going to happen to me. So if you need a quote for predestination, only what God has decreed will happen to us. On the Shia side, I've still got that as a 5 instead of the word 5. Hang on, sorry, I can't leave it alone. 5. No, come here. Adalat is the idea of justice. That is one of the 5 roots of faith, the idea that God is just and justice must be done, that we are all going to be treated justly by God in the end, and that justice is the ultimate aim of God's not the ultimate aim of God, that justice is that important to Allah, and that we should therefore treat others with justice. You'll notice that it's not in the 6 articles of faith. Sunni Muslims don't put in the 6 articles of faith. That doesn't mean it's not important to them. They do believe that Allah is just. It's just not in their 6 articles of faith. In the same way that angels aren't in the 5 roots of faith, but that doesn't mean that angels aren't important to Shia Muslims. They just don't put them in the 5 roots of faith. They're just not up in the top 5, for example. And so that's just Adlat is just the idea of justice. We should treat others with justice. We should aim for justice. Justice is an incredibly important part of living. The Imamate is unique to Shia Muslims, and it would not appear in any sort of similar way in the 6 articles of faith. The Imamate were the leadership of the religion after the death of Ali. Ali is the Prophet's son-in-law who takes over the religion after the Prophet's death, according to Shia Muslims. Don't forget, this is where we get the split between Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims. The Sunni Muslims follow Abu, the Shia Muslims follow Ali. And those leaders after Ali are the Imamate, those people who were going to lead the faith. Why is that important to have human leadership in charge of the religion? Well, they argue that these people were chosen by God. In fact, the quote that you could use for the Imamate, if an Imamate question does come up in the assessment, when Sunni Muslims do the Shahada, their declaration of faith, they say there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. And Shia Muslims do the same message, there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. And then they add on the end, and the translation isn't exact, but and Ali is the friend of Allah. Now, by friend, they don't mean that they hang out and play like FIFA together. They mean like he is like a loyal servant and he is someone who is trusted by Allah. Friend doesn't mean like mate in that sense. But this is an important distinction because it shows how important the Imamate are to Shia Muslims. That Ali, the first of the Imams, is considered so important. He's considered like worthy to put in the Shahada, that he's worthy to have this sentence you say every single day maybe. Every time you pray you'd say the Shahada and you would put Ali's name into it. The Imams after Ali are normally poisoned and killed. There is a lot of murder of them until the final Imam. The final Imam is a child and he is oculated. He goes into oculation, which I think I'm saying that right. It's a word you don't hear very much in conversation. It means that Allah just sort of hides him from reality, and then one day in the future he will return to us. He will be returned to sort of lead the faith again. But in these times he was hidden because that's the story of it. Okay, so if you need to talk about the Imamate, let's say, oh, I don't know what any of that means. Right, the people are doing chat, says a fist bump. Sub me for free stuff in I don't know what illy means. Illy. You're crazy. That should be your with an E on the end. Y-O-U apostrophe R-E should be the thing. Oi Gior. Don't know what that means. Guys, I don't know what that means. Squad ranking, I don't know quite what it means. I don't think Allah would in terms of rank any of these beings, but you could argue, does Allah rank the prophets above the Imamate? The Sunni Muslims would certainly say yes, and to a certain degree Shia Muslims might have to accept that because the prophets were chosen by God as messengers and the Imamate aren't quite at that same level. So for most people you would argue the prophets are more important than the Imams, and certainly they're more important in the 5 roots of faith than for Shia Muslims than they are in the 6 articles of faith. Just to go back to Tawheed, because I said I'd focus more time on it. It's the oneness of God, okay? The Shahada, there is no God but God. In fact, worshipping any other God in Islam is considered a sin. Don't forget, Ibrahim and Muhammad destroyed the statues in Makkah in order to stop people worshipping statues. You do not focus on anything else except for God. Okay, the quotes say, He is Allah who is one. Okay, He is Allah who is one. Quote from the Quran very clearly stating there is one being who is Allah. Okay, so believing in any God beside Allah is seen as the worst sin that a Muslim can be sort of committing. Images of Muhammad are not allowed, as it can be seen as shirk. So that's why if you go to a mosque, it'll be decorated, but there's no pictures, there's no stained glass windows, there's no statues. Because what if someone starts praying and focusing their energy on a statue rather than focusing the energy on Allah? A Muslim would not allow a statue to be built in that sense. So it's very important for a Muslim to be focusing on the oneness of God. That's Tawheed. Oh no, I've clicked the wrong thing, I've lost all my lesson. Oh, there it is. Okay, angels. Angels are just a nice thing to drop in and to have the knowledge of, because they're part of the prophet stories and they are something different from human beings. And you might get a 4-mark or a 5-mark question to talk about 2 specific angels, and it's quite a useful thing to have to do. Okay, so spiritual beings who serve God and pass on His word, especially Jibril, who is like his main role is as a messenger. They have no free will, they are pure and sinless, though we can talk about the role of Iblis within this. That could be a nice thing to drop in and we'll get to at the end. They are to follow Allah's orders and communicate with humans, often via the prophets, nearly always via the prophets. In heaven they praise and guard His throne. They welcome humans to paradise. So there's some little things that angels do. And if you wanted specific angels, you've got Jibril, the angel of revelation. A revelation, that's that word here, revelation. Okay, that's not the straightest line I've ever drawn. Let me try that again. That's better. Oh, whoops, I crossed out the E bit. Revelation is the idea that something will be revealed to you. You can see it's the start of the word revealed almost. Revelation. A revelation, okay? You reveal a secret or reveal a truth to someone. Here's a revelation. At the end of the latest episode of EastEnders, there is a revelation. I don't know if that's true. I don't watch EastEnders. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense to me. So he recited the Quran to Muhammad, told Mary, she was pregnant with Jesus. Okay, so that bit in the Bible where the angel comes down and goes, "Hey Mary, you're up the duff," and call the baby Jesus. That's in the Quran as well. That is a Muslim belief as well, but they don't believe that it is the Son of God being born. They just believe it's a prophet, Jesus. Okay, but that bit where the angel comes to Mary and says, "Hey, you're pregnant," that happens for both religions. That is the same story. So the angel of revelation, don't forget the reciting of the Quran is called the night of power. Okay, it's when Muhammad gets the messages of the Quran. He doesn't get it all in one night, he gets it over a period of time, but the first night is called the night of power. Oh no, there's a hair in my keyboard. I got it. Mikael, otherwise known as the angel Michael in Christianity, the angel of mercy, rewards good deeds, bring nourishment to the earth. When I put brings nourishment to the earth, the easy thing to talk about is Michael brings the rains. He brings the rains to the earth to grow, what's he called, crops. It grows up crops. He asks Allah to forgive our sins, okay? So you could use Michael having these multiple roles. I love the rain facts, I think that's really easy to sort of remember. You should try and call him Mikhail, but if you call him Michael, you're not going to lose marks for it. But Mikhail will make you look smarter and please the examiners. The examiner's more likely to give you a bit of leeway if you've already called him Mikhail. What if you're up the duff? I don't know what would happen if you're up the duff. I guess just, speak to your doctor. Israel, or Azrael, the angel of death. The name gets used in quite a lot of films and like comic books and stuff like that. I know Batman has an enemy or a friend called Azrael who's like this sword wielding guy, because when you search for Azrael, that's the first thing that comes up a lot of the time. Azrael takes the souls of people's bodies when they die. It is Azrael who is during afterlife, who is helping take souls across to the other side. Azrael is there. So when I die, it'll be Azrael who takes my soul to Barzakh. Barzakh is the grave where it will rest with my body. Nice one to have there. And Israfil, who is my favourite angel because it's such a great job. Israfil's job is to blow the trumpet to say that it's the day of judgment. So when the time is right and Allah wishes to end the world, it is Israfil who blows the trumpet. And the trumpet will be blown, and if the whole world will hear it, and that he blows it twice. He blows it once to end the world and to kill us all, we will all die, which does sound bad. And then he'll blow it again to resurrect all the bodies. Everyone will be resurrected and come back to life. So as he blows it the first time, the earth will shake, every volcano will erupt, and the earth will be covered in smoke, and then we will all die. Annoying. And then he'll blow it again and we are all resurrected later. Okay, that is Israfil. So in my mind, and I know it's not going to be like this, like he's constantly stood next to Allah's throne with his trumpet, like waiting, just going, "Give me the signal, mate, I'm ready at any point to blow this trumpet." I mean, imagine just there all the time, you still haven't been able to blow it. And the quote is one of the, I think, the easiest ones, but it's hard to put into a 12 marker maybe. Created with wings of 2 or 3 or 4. Now that's just a description of the angels. They are created with wings of 2 or 3 or 4. It's an easy quote in that it's easy to remember, I think. It's not that useful in proving any sort of point. You would only use it to sort of make a point that angels are created differently to humans. They are created specially to humans. And the wings is part of the evidence we have that they are messengers, because they must come to earth using their wings of 2 or 3 or 4. That's the quote I would go with because I think it's the simplest. You can find more complex quotes about angels, but I don't think it was easy to remember, and I think it would take you longer. Okay, so created with wings of 2 or 3 or 4, and you would just drop that fact in there when talking about showing that angels are created specially and how angels are different from human beings. Okay, good. All right. Now, I'm going to have a bit of water because I like it. Well, that's very wet. Life after death is Akira. Akira is not the word for heaven. That's a really straight line. Apart from that little bit there, that was perfect. I'm very proud of myself. Akira is the whole concept of life after death. When you die and you are brought back to life, that is a kira. Okay. I thought I had a question on angels. I do. I'm going to do this question on angels first. I've put those bits in the wrong order. That's annoyed me. Sorry. I know that's really pathetic, but I really need to move these around into the right order. I was planning this late last night. Right, so angels. Pretend I didn't say the word Akira. Angels. Let's look at this 5-mark question about angels here. Explain 2 Muslim beliefs about the role of angels. So there's a load of ways you could approach this, okay? There's a load of different ways you could approach this. Now, there's lines there, but I'm obviously not going to be able to use the lines when I'm doing it because I'm going to be typing and they're just like underscores, and if I start typing it's just going to move them all. So the 2 ways that I think you can approach this sensibly is either that you say 2 different jobs angels do, or you pick 2 angels and really describe what their role is within it. So I might go, one role of angels within Islam is the role taken by, and that's not brilliant English, I roll twice in a sentence, but taken by, and someone in the chat said something about Mikhail being a top bloke. There you go. So we'll pick on Mikhail. Oh. Apostrophe. Oh my lord, I hate this new keyboard. He is considered to be, now I'm going to be fancy and go the nourisher of the earth. This means he is here to look after the planet and to care for us. Not going to use role again. One aspect of this is that he is said to bring the rains to feed the crops. We'll say feed the crops. Oh, I've spelled the word for. I've put the word off wrong. Okay. So I've got a new laptop and the keyboard's slightly different to how I like it, so I'll keep hitting the wrong buttons to feed the crops. Okay, so that would be fine. That'd be worth a couple of marks, and I wouldn't be worrying too much about that. I could add some more to it. This is important to Muslims as they can see Mikhail as vital to leading a good and healthy life. I mean, it's a little bit waffly there. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then I'd go another role of angels could be said to be as a messenger. For example, Jibril is considered to be the messenger who brought the Quran to Muhammad on the night. Oh, there's no m in there. Night of power. Bang. That's nice. Okay. So I'm going to get some marks for that. But it's a 5-mark question. What do I need in a 5-mark question? I need to drop a quote in there. Okay. So I've got to get this wings quote in there. It doesn't quite fit. So I'm going to have to do a bit of sliding around. So I'm going to go. He is said to have appeared from the heavens and was and then I'm going to bust my quote in, created with wings of 2 or 3 or 4. Right. This allowed Jibril to come to earth with messages I'm going to go not only for Muhammad, but also Ibrahim and Maryam, brackets, Mary, Jesus' mother. It's by no means the greatest piece of writing that I've ever done in my life. Hang on, sorry. You're right. So that guy's having to set the kettle up for feeding a baby. So that would, I'm going to make that a bit bigger so it's a bit easier to read, because it's tough for me to read as well. I mean, that would, it's not the greatest bit of English I've ever written, and I wouldn't want to submit it to any sort of writing competition, but that would easily get you your 5 marks, okay? You're just explaining two of the roles of an angel, and I'm busting in bits of knowledge here. I'm busting in the Knight of Power, I've got a quote in there, I've got the name of Muhammad and Ibrahim and Mary. Anyone who knows this is going to have reference to sacred writings. They know that I know what's going on here, okay? It's clear that I'm explaining through both these angels two roles of angels, and you could use Azrael as one of them, or Israfil to the other one. So I'm going to take in this paragraph and goes, one role is that of Israfil. He is the angel who is responsible for blowing a trumpet to signal the end of the world on the day of resurrection. When he blows his trumpet, it is said that... Now, what if I don't remember that quote there? How could I do a little bit of cheekiness? Well, I could go, it is said... Bang, 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 bang. Ah! Oh my lord, I'm so bad at writing. It is said in the Quran... So if I say it's said in the Quran, that's reference scripture, that the world will shake, volcanoes will erupt, and the earth will be covered in smoke. Now, even though I'm not quoting the Quran directly, I'm saying in the Quran it states this. As long as you're confident that what you're saying is in the Quran, just say in the Quran it says, and give me a specific that you believe would be from the Quran. And that answer there, changing Mikhail to Israfil, would still be worth 5 marks. Okay, you're still going to get your 5 marks for that. Speaking of that sort of life, the world ending, life after death. Oh no, hang on, I haven't changed it on your one. Life after death, Akira. And that's my very straight line. It's back again. Let's try it again. No. Oh. Ah. One more. This is better than any computer game I played all year. Just trying to draw a straight. Whoa. Okay. Right, here we go. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Oh. I was going well for it. Anyway, life after death is Akira. Akira isn't heaven. Akira isn't hell. It is just life after death. That means that when we die, our body is dead, but our